Today we're talking the regular health stuff. I'm an intuitive learner. I learn from experience as well. I am not professing to know more than other people. I just have the ability to apply knowledge, application of knowledge, and the usefulness and the efficacy of that knowledge, rather than just having tons of data on something and not actually being able to use it to better humanity, to better our situation in any way. So let's get into today's video. And so today we're going to talk about religion. It seems to be like it don't really matter what you want to do with humanity and how you want to better humanity, right? If you don't understand something, you're gonna default to the lower vibrational understanding of things. You're gonna go with what seems to make sense, that keeps your worldview, and so you have your morals and your moral obligations and your pretty things and your, how you dress and how you talk to people and how you work and how you play and all these things and all that shit that people are focused on. But when you filter that all down, right, when you get to the, real nitty gritty of what matters in life, we, like the Maslow's hierarchy, right? You ever seen that? I'll tell you what, let's put it up right now. If you look here, you get something like this. You get, so at the bottom here, you see physiological needs: air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction. These are very, obvious things that seem to matter to us the most. And then as we go up, the shit that you see going up there, like friendship, intimacy, family, sense of connection, stuff like that, right? And at the top, you have self-actualization. So one could say that if you look through all these, there's really no place for religion here. But if there was any place for religion, one could argue, by the way, I don't agree with all this shit completely. Like, I haven't studied it, but like, it just seems like too much of a cookie cutter framework to put human beings into this, because one could argue that once you achieve self-actualization and freedom and things like, freedom and sense of connection, that you actually start to value your physiological needs. So that's very interesting, right? Because my self-actualization, my esteem, my safety needs and things like that, they didn't stem from physiological needs. It actually went the other way around. It's like I desired to be the most that one could be, and that led me down this path down here to deal with the basic shit, and then deal with the safety needs, and then deal with love and belonging, all the rest of the shit. So that is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Religion, okay, we've got this situation where people have all this moral high ground and virtue signaling shit going on, where you've got this moral superiority over your counterparts, or you've got this framework in your family and your extended family and your community whereby you feel obliged to behave a certain way, partake in certain rituals, eat certain foods. Big one, big thing there. Okay, woo. All right, I'm not gonna overwhelm you right now, because 9 times out of 10, you gotta think most of the people on this planet are, have a faith. The point is, from cultural, dogma, the conformist mentality of just herd mentality, that things should be a certain way, everyone else in this certain community or this religious group are doing things a certain way. So whether you're Islamic, whether you're Christian, whether you're a Jew, whether you're a Sikh, whether you're a Buddhist, whatever you are, right, a lot of the decisions that you make, okay, around your health could potentially be affected by your religious stance, by what you believe in, right? What your faith is, okay? And so in the case of like Sikhs, for example, Sikhs have a specific type of diet. They've got, even in the religious context, there's some sort of, like divine, holy, blessed foods that I wouldn't put in my mouth. The wine and the bread thing, right? In Christianity, that's your last supper. What was your first supper? Like, if you're eating bread, that's some highly inflammatory shit. Okay, it was different in Jesus' time. They had this grain called einkorn and a few other ones, right? And those those grains genetically had far fewer chromosomes, smaller DNA structure, like 12 or something like that, 12 chromosomes versus like 50 or 60 chromosomes you find in modern bread. So the bread and the proteins and everything else there was a lot less complex and a lot more easy to digest, but still it led us down to the path we got to today, right? The wine, okay? So people, wine is fine. Jesus drank wine. It's probably like 0.005% alcohol, right? Whereas people are like, yeah, wine, fuck the wine. Let's get a bottle of vodka, guys. So it's like people take things out of the context, and modernity is basically lost all sense of calibration to common sense with halal meat, for example. I used to eat from butchers. There's a butcher on my road, right? There's two actually, and they both sell halal meat. There's just Muslims everywhere, okay? That's fine. The welfare of the quality of the meat, right? The traditional English butcher, it's not there really unless you go and seek out a specialist butcher that sells pastured meat or organic meat or like just generally high welfare meat from a farm or something like that. Even the farms aren't really cutting it these days. With halal meat, for example, you get all this talk about the way that the animal's slaughtered to reduce the suffering of the animal and things like that, and certain things that you should or should not be. So they do all these prayers over the meat and stuff, but then if you look at the actual quality of the meat, right? Dude, I didn't even know what chicken thighs looked like until I bought some organic chicken thighs. They were small, okay, sure, they were small, but they actually looked like meat, like good quality meat. Whereas like when I used to get it from the halal butcher, like if I looked at it now, I'd be like, oh shit, I can't believe I was eating that stuff, man. I don't even classify that as food, bro. Like, how are you possibly gonna think that an organic pasture raised animal that has had the best welfare and quality of life in the best districts and localities where things are just great for that animal, it's got sunlight, air, water, freedom, and access to forage, wide varieties of food, it's got a very wide range of nutrition, it's actually getting the right types of foods, not solely relying on GMO grains and corn and soy, stuff like that. So, you should know about this animal welfare stuff already. If you're living in the 21st century, if you're aware of animal farming, intensive farming practices and confined production of livestock, it's abhorrent and shocking what these animals go through. And even with that, the vast majority of the human population, places like India, are just still largely vegetarian, people who are basically losing their mind, and they're highly intelligent people just losing and unraveling from what it means to be a human being, which is to sustain yourself with your needs as a human being. You need your bodily functions to be working, right? And that means that you need animal products at this stage in time. So religion in the context of nutrition is kind of sucks that they're really, I don't know about Judaism or Buddhism or how these all work, but from what I know about Christianity, Islam, Sikhism, probably Hinduism too, a lot of the cultures around the world, they tend to rely on agricultural produce, and agricultural produce tends to be largely, grain produce. So like we're talking wheat, barley, corn, soy, maize, starchy foods, and there's less emphasis on the higher quality caloric sustenance, high quality fats, which are harder to get, harder to produce. So you'll quickly find then, to give a religious community all the sustenance, all the food that they need is impractical in every way, because it would mean that you would have to have the highest welfare farming, right? Because that's what aligns with the religious doctrine, right? The moral, ethical, signaling that you have in these religions, right? Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt be nice to animals, thou shalt. So a lot of the foods that you guys be eating, tends to be very low quality. So it's kind of like a big paradox there. I don't want to say hypocrisy, because hypocrisy means it's like usually when people are aware of something, if you become aware of it, like I'm making you aware of it now you're a fucking hypocrite. You understand? Before you watched this video, you weren't a hypocrite. You were just like lacking the awareness, okay? So now you've become a hypocrite, because now you know that you're signaling one thing. You're signaling, oh, less harm to the animals, oh, peaceful, dignified, happy, you know, like life and like under God's will and God's wishes. And now the hypocrisy is the food that you're eating is complete fucking garbage, right? You got animals shitting on each other in little cages, like plucking their own feathers because they're stressed and shit. And like they're injected with like millions of different things. So basically you're just eating something that's pointless to eat anyway. Even if it was farmed good or bad, don't even make a difference, because it's pointless to eat because there's no nutrition in it, right? It's damaging your health, it's damaging the animals' welfare, it's damaging the environment, and it's damaging, you know, the ability for people to actually put a stop to it, because the religion is like, you know, breeding. I don't want to offend anyone, so I'm just gonna stop here, leave this video here. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know your comments in the box down below. If there's anything you'd like me to explore on this subject, and just what religion are you? Do you believe in God? You know, and how does that affect your decisions in your life, and how you eat, and how you relate to other people who may not follow the same faith, and how you view what they do, right? So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.